Okay, everyone, for this week I thought we might be doing something a little fun, hopefully for you. I know for me this is always enjoyable, is to take some of the stuff that you've learned and actually put it into action. So we completed this whole Code Academy series several weeks ago, but given our discussion about websites and what happens and the whole process, I think I'd like to now take this and give you another hands-on experience. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a project that was not required, that you could have done for late points removed. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom where it says here in Unit 6, build a resume. So when you come into this, it actually gives you the index file, the HTML, and it gives you the CSS that creates this particular output, and this is a resume. So what I'm going to have you do is recreate this locally on your local computer using, I'm going to suggest Sublime Text. That's what I talked about a couple weeks ago when we started talking about JavaScript. And then what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you modify it for either your information or just make up somebody or one of your favorite characters or whatever. I can't make you use it as your own personal information, but I will say if you're trying to put a resume out there, this is a good way to get started. So you can do it whichever way you want. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do this, and then I'm going to show you, once we're done locally and we have it the way we want it, I'm going to show you how to put it on Google Drive, but I'm going to show you how to host it as a web page and not just a file. Okay, so several steps we're going to do here. So step one is, here's the project that was completed after, if you did this one, and again it was not required, but it might be kind of fun here because it goes to and it shows you how to do this stuff. So if you wanted to do that, you could, and then use it for a late points returned. But because this first step gives us the final project, we don't have to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I'm on my Mac, but it doesn't matter, everything I'm going to show you works identical, I'm pretty sure, on a PC. So you shouldn't have any challenges here. But I'm going to minimize this. On my desktop, I'm going to do a new folder, and that folder by default comes with a name. So I'm just going to one-time click, I'm going to call it demo, or actually I'm going to call it home. I think home is actually a better name. Now it doesn't matter the name you give it here, it's just that you have a folder ready to receive the files that you have loaded. Okay, so the other thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and fire up Sublime Text. Okay, so I gave you a link last time, but if you want, FYI, you can go to the web and just go to sublimetext.com. There's a 3 that's the latest version. It runs on all operating systems, so you could do that. The other option, if you did want to do this, is you could make all these changes in here and then copy and paste them in what we're about to do. But I think Sublime Text is just a nice thing to know how to use as well, so I'm using it for this demonstration. Okay, so now that I have my Sublime Text up, right, so I have it loaded right here, I'm going to recreate these two files. So I'm going to take the index file, I'm just going to select all the text in there, I'm going to copy it, I'm going to come to my Sublime Text, which is here, and I'm going to paste it. Okay, Control C, Control V. So this is the HTML in a file name we're going to call, and we're going to keep it the same as here, is index.html. Okay, so let me just make this a little bigger. In a minute we'll show you why I'm going to change the size. I'm going to do File, Save As. I'm going to put it in that directory I had on my desktop called Home, right? And here I'm going to call it, Sublime Text gives me a name by default untitled, but index lowercase, no spaces, index.html. Cool, right? So now what it did, it went into that folder, and then I'm just going to hit save here. So that creates the index file. So it's really kind of fun, even before we do anything else, just to look through here and we can see your name here, right? We can see an email here as far as the text, and then an email. The mail to gives a link, so whatever email client the person is in, when they click, it automatically opens this as the default email. We have a left and a right, which we'll look at in a minute. These divs have classes which have CSS, right? But it's really really kind of fun to know what just the HTML looks like. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say open in a browser, right? So look at this. So this is, and I'm going to pull this out of my standard HTML, my standard browser tabs. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it a little smaller. And I recommend actually the workflow, and that's what we're doing here, is like this. So here's why I like to have this. So we can go through here and look at all the content. What you're going to need to do is modify the content with either your information or the information of some fictional or non-fictional character you want to make up, okay? But what you can really see here is the impacts of that CSS file, and the reason I say that is there's nothing pretty here, or there's nothing colorful here. This is just a straight HTML, and sometimes it's easier for you to see this to start making changes. So like if I come over here and I put Rio Waller, I just put, now by the way, we'll make sure when you're doing this you put the content correctly within your elements, your tags. Okay, so then when I do that, notice my little icon here goes to a circle, which means I have changed something. So I'm going to do File, Save, right? And then I'm going to come over here, I'm going to hit refresh, and then you can see that change automatically. So this is the part you're going to recommend. I recommend kind of doing at this pace or at the next stage when I grab the CSS file. Okay, so that's what you'll go through, is modify this. So now let's do the next phase. We're going to do a new file, another new file. Sorry, over here. I'm going to do a new file. New file was right up there at the top. Now on this file, I'm going to go back to my here we go. Here is now on Codecademy. Here's your CSS file. I'm going to grab that, all of it. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to put it in, bring it into Sublime Text. I'm going to paste it, right? Now what happens here is because I haven't told it what kind of file it is, I don't get this wonderful color coding that I get on my index file. So as soon as I save it, you'll see that change. I'll do File, Save. And then it'll ask me, where are you going to save it? Well, I'm going to save it in that same home directory. It's trying to help me by giving me the first name, but I need to call it stylesheet.css. And you want to have this exactly be, and I'll show you in a minute why, stylesheet.css. I'll hit save here, and again, see how that automatically changed, gave me the color coding. Now why do I need the exact name? Because in the HTML, it's referencing this. Okay, so now let's bring back our other file what we had here. I think it was here. It is. Okay, I'm just going to pull that out of the way. So now that I've done that, I can see my HTML has changed a little bit. I don't think I did anything there, but I'll just, and I'm going to start using keyboard shortcuts, Control S, or in Mac, Apple S. And then over here, I'm going to do refresh or F5. And then now you can see the CSS clearly and what it's doing, right? You can see that we have a header at the top, and now it's fun to go through and look at ID header. That's the name. We looked at that earlier, but now if you look over at your CSS file, you can see your header. Really, most importantly, if you might want to change the height, and this is really what's required. Besides the content, I want you to change the color of each one of these to make it your own. Okay, and notice how when I scroll down in this resolution, you see that this header remains fixed. That's what this means right here. The width is how wide across it is. The height is how tall it is. The background color, the margin bottom, is how much of a bottom margin we have on it. Okay, so the other way I'm going to show you, so this is one way, is just going through, and if you don't remember all these things from the HTML CSS, you can always just go Google them or go look back on this, but I'll just walk you through some basics as well. Okay, so now we have the beginnings, right? And I just want to show you we do have that file folder, right? So we have under my desktop, I have that home right here. Under my desktop I have that home, and I have two files, that HTML and that CSS file sitting there. Okay, I just want you to see that. So now make all the changes you want and that are required. So you need to change the content and change the color. Okay, so that's the minimal. To get full credit for this, you'll need to do this part. And then I'll show you at the end how to upload it to Google Drive for hosting. So let's just go through, because I started having you look at the CSS file here, but I want to show you another way that I think is even cooler for how to do this. Let me show you. I'm going to make my screen here just a little bit bigger, right? And I'm going to right click in this area and I'm going to do inspect element. And I showed you developer tools in Chrome last time, but I'm going to show it to you again because it's really helpful for this particular assignment, right? So as you go through here, you see the HTML, which is cool. Awesome. But you can also see, I'm going to do that one more time. I'm going to inspect the element, and in the header up there you also see over here the CSS, and what you can do here is live preview changes you might make. So if I wanted that height to be taller or smaller, let's just say I said it was 50. Right? Notice how it automatically changes. Now these are temporary changes, these are not permanent changes, you're just looking at how to change this. The background color, you pop this up, really nice little feature here is you can just choose different colors. Let's say I wanted a nice, this color, I wouldn't call that nice, but you can see the hexadecimal equivalent, right? So then once you do that, if you click off, then you see that that is the change you would need to do in your actual file. So all we're doing here is we're playing. We're just looking at what I might want to do. And what happens as soon as you hit reload, it reloads that and it goes away. So these are temporary changes, and what you will do after is you'll bring back your CSS and Sublime text, and you can make those changes here, right? So here's that color we were looking at, here's that. Now you might not want to change the height on that header just because it depends. You can throw some other things off, but again, this is the idea of just kind of playing and figuring out how this works. Okay, alright, so let's just go through it a little more. So if I was over here and I was to say inspect this element, oh, I'd see that's the left. That totally makes sense. You come over here, here's my width, right, 10% of the screen. My height 400, that's how tall it's going to be. My background color, so again, if I didn't like that color and you need to change the color, that is the required part of this assignment. You'll want to come in here, find a different color, and you're like, and you can see immediately, and also it gives you this fun, wonderful other little picker if you want it to do that. And again, you can kind of look, so when you get the color you want, right, you copy that, copy it, and then you come back into your Sublime text and you're like, let's see, what was that? That was the left, right? So you'd come down through here and you'd say left. Oop, there it is. That would be that. I'm going to paste that in there. Oh, make sure you don't have 2 pound signs, that'll throw it off, right? So I'm going to do save here. So what I've done now is I've made a permanent change, and I want to show you that, right? So now that I hit refresh, right, what happens is that's now a permanent change because I put it in my HTML code. That's cool. This is actually what, if you're really creating websites, this is what you would be doing. So that's the exercise for this week, is for you to go through, play with this, right? I'm going to show you just a little more because I think it's good to know. You'll update your content. I would come up with a color palette. There's multiple ways to do that, right? You can search the web for different color palettes. There's great, Adobe has some fun stuff on that. But again, the minimum requirements are you to update with either a fictional character of your own. You can make up an email if you're not using your own. An objective, and experience, skills, and education. Again, make them up or use your own. And then some either true or not true data at the bottom. Alright, so you do all that. So once you do all that, now you're ready for the next piece. Okay? So once you go through and modify this the way you want, now what we're going to do is we're going to actually put this up on Google Drive, and I'm going to show you how to make this host as a web page, because what we've been looking at so far is it hosted locally, right? It's hosted on my local C drive, and of course I can't see that, meaning I, as the person looking at it, and really this could be a resume for you, so you might want to do that. But and this is also talking about that idea we talked about last week of web hosting, right? So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you this link, because what we're about to do, Google's already warning us they're going to discontinue it, but it's not for a little while, so this can be used, and it's a just simple way to do it. So what we're going to do is to publish web pages on the Google Drive. So we're going to go to Drive. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to go to my Drive, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, and I like to do things simply. So what I'm going to do is minimize this. Now, by the way, before you do the next step, make all the changes you want. Now, if you do make changes afterwards, you just have to redo this one file, either the index or the CSS, whichever one you change after you do the next step. So just keep that in mind, right? So here we are. Here's I'm going to minimize this stuff because here's my folder right here, right? My home folder. And I could either do new, and I could do a folder upload if I wanted, right? That's one way to do it, is you could do a folder upload. But, you know, I like to do things a little, hopefully smarter, and I'm just going to drag this in, and then it's uploading that into my directory. So now you don't have to worry about placing this into a shared with Rio folder or anything like that. This is really for you just in the root of your Google Drive. So now when I click on it right here, right, I'm going to go ahead and click one time on it. And I'll just show you. Let's just look to see what's in there. There's two files, right? There's an index file, there's a CSS file. This totally makes sense given what we just did. And I'm going to go back to Drive. I'm going to click Home again. And this time I'm going to grab the sharing option because my resolution, I'm going to decrease my resolution just a little bit so we can see this. I'm going to right click. I'm going to get my share options. Oh, there we go. It was right there as well. I just didn't see it. So click once, hit your sharing options. I'm going to share my home directory. This is why it doesn't matter if it's home or not. So a little different than we've done before. We're going to click advanced here. And then down here, or up here, I'm going to change this to where it's going to be public on the web. And that's what those instructions that I was showing you were. I'm going to hit save, right? And now this is viewed from the web. But let me show you what it looks like, because we've just done standard, and I'm going to go ahead and hit done. So, and I'm going to show you this. I'm actually going to, I'll show you this just from another tab. So if we were to look at this URL right now, this should be looking somewhat familiar, right? This is those two files, but notice they're just rendered as files. They're not rendered as web pages. So the next stage is the part of this that we're going to do, that we actually are going to do this part right here. Okay? So if you want to reread over that, that's how you would do it. So I'm going to grab the URL because there's only a part of this we need. So to show you this, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to bring up Sublime Text just because it'll be a little clearer. And I'm going to do a new file. I'm going to paste in that URL. That is the URL for that folder. But we only need this part right up until the and, okay? So this is called the document ID. So now I'm going to create a new line, and you'll see why. I'm going to come over here to my instructions. I'm going to pull this right here. Because what we're doing here is we're changing this from a standard Google Drive hosted into a web hosting. Okay, so now, and we could put the HTTP on there. Again, you hopefully know from lecture that's not required. So in this bracket is we're going to copy right up into there, copy that, and then just place it down in here. Okay. Oh, try that again. Try it one more time. I could just drag it as well. That's the other way. Sorry. Oh, that's why. I was thinking, wait a minute, what happened to that? I'm going to undo a couple of tries here, right? Grab it one more time, my bad. Sorry about that. Grab it. So the only reason I'm doing this is so that I can just easily, and what we're building is the URL. We talked about the URL, the Universal Resource Locator last time. So now I'm going to do this. I'm just going to paste that there. Cool. Now, only one other step, although not entirely required, we're going to do it, index.html, because now this points to our folder, but then it also points to the file. So I'm going to hit copy. I'm going to go to a new tab, and if all works well, and Rio did it right, what should happen here is boom. Now we're hosting that modified HTML, CSS, this web page on the web. Isn't that awesome? That is totally awesome. So the last part of this, again, not last part, but if you make other changes, you'll have to just re-upload that index and that CSS file. Okay? So here's the last thing I want to say is how you turn in your homework is you go to your Google Drive for Classwork and you give me a shortened URL. Okay. Now we've been using the Google shortened URL shortener, but there are other shorteners out there, right? Bitly has one. Some of these other ones give you a nice option that I think is kind of fun to use as well. Ali's one, Google's one. I was going to find the one I found yesterday, but let me just complete here, right? So I would paste that in there, shorten the URL, and then this, right? Because the thing is, think about this, and this is really simulating if you were really doing this for real, right? This is what you would provide on your resume or somewhere else. Now, given that, you might want to customize that URL, right? You might want to give it your name somehow in there. So I found one yesterday called tiny.cc. And tiny.cc is kind of cool because you could do this. I could put my name and then I could put paste, right? And then I could do that and then, oh, sorry, not URL. Oh, I chose duh. Sorry, my bad. Was going too fast. So actually it's this URL right here that I want to copy that. Doing too many things at once, right? That's already a shortened URL. It doesn't like that. So let's say if oh yeah, so that's cool. It needs the HTTP and it's actually HTTPS, right? That. I'm going to say in my custom do a tiny. Oh, that is awesome, right? So now I have a custom URL shortener that I could put on a resume. Okay, know there's a couple steps. I know that seems like a lot, but it's honestly not. And again, if you need any help with doing that, use your editor and a combination of what I showed you today with the dev tools. Great. Hopefully this brings together a lot of things we've been talking about and gives you a real experience of what it's like to create very simple web pages and host them out on the web. Okay, have a great time. Stop.